Hello, 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 and welcome to another session of Let's Get Real with Mona. That's me. So, yes, we are in a brand new month. It's the 1st of August today. How incredible! I mean, we are in the 8th month of 2022. I mean, are you even wondering where the rest of the year went to? And yes, I know for many of us, it's been a challenging year. And I guess today's topic or this month's theme, the frequency of expansion, is so apt. Sometimes when we think that things aren't going our way, we may be confused about what's really going on. And how many of you know what I'm talking about? We think that we are growing and all the good things are happening to us, or we are in the best space when only good things happen to us. But we forget to look at all the signs from the universe. So do let me know who's joining me, where you're joining me from. And as we have a global community, what time of the day it is for you. And what I would love to know is, how are you feeling right now? As I said, we are in the 8th month of this year. How are you feeling right now? I'd love to know, because that's why you are here listening to this video, because you know that you are on this journey of ascension. And I guess that's what we're speaking about this month, because it is a conversation we need to have. We need to have it over the dinner table. We need to have it when we're meeting friends and we're just having a chat. We've got to have this conversation about expansion, because after all, it is something that should be a topic that we discuss, not secretly in specific societies, but everywhere, all the time. So today we're going to focus on the link between expansion and abundance. And yes, if you know me by now, you know that when I speak about abundance, I'm speaking about how you feel, how you connect with abundance, and abundance in all its forms. Excuse me, not just money or material things. It's beyond that. It's all the aspects that bring you joy, bring you a sense of freedom, bring you security, connect you to God, divine, spirit, the universe, whatever it is you call it. And expansion, well, I asked the question today, what does expansion mean for you? And I'd ask it again. What does expansion mean for you? Now, when we think about it traditionally, if you just look at the dictionary definition of expansion, it's about growing or increasing something. It's actually defined as the act of something getting bigger, or you adding on, elements or onto something else. So that's how it's traditionally explained. And yes, generally, when we speak about expansion, we are generally in the everyday community. People are speaking about what they are acquiring, because that's how we've been taught in society. But if you know me, you know we're going to be delving a bit deeper than what we are accumulating in the physical form or on the material plane. So go with me on this one, right? Now, what are some of the causes of expansion? As you know, expansion can be as a result of something external. We look at like this world situation that has been happening over the past 2 years. And then we've got all these wars going on around. So it's all these external situations that can impact our expansion or the expansion of something, where economies were collapsing instead of expanding and rising. Then you have internal expansion. Now, internal is what's internal within the country and organization. So it's something that's localized. Now, if we look at us as individuals, we can have expansion either consciously done, and this would be where it's deliberate, where we want to go. For example, when we go to school, each year is an expansion of our learning abilities, how we learn to write, how we learn to speak, how we learn to comprehend. And then we go to university, we get qualifications because now we're improving our academic abilities, we improving our intellectual abilities. So that's deliberate. We go and we get a business to either serve more people, but most people open a business to make more money, right? Tell me that's what you've noticed out there. And we can speak about that another time. Well, you want to have a business, or you want to go on a spiritual quest. Now, these are deliberate. You apply for a specific job. It may be different to what you're doing now. You choose a different career. Those are deliberate expansion. Now, you would also have the situation where we have what I call forced expansion. Now, very often, this happens through to calamitous situations. I'll pronounce that again. Calamitous events, yes. Like hurricanes, storms, you name it. But when Mother Earth really, really gets upset and she has to erupt in a mountain, it's unplanned or sudden events. And these can be where you lose your job, or you lose a home, or you lose a family member, somebody you know, a loved one. It could be illness that forces expansion on us. Now, I know some of you are wondering, Mona, you said illness, losing a home, losing someone is a form of expansion. Well, that's just the tip of the iceberg for this week, because we're going to discuss that a bit more when we have our upcoming sessions. So yes, I see someone typed in calamitous events in the chat. Yes, calamitous events. There's always one or two words that we have that twists our tongue, but that's just it. It's events that are like natural disasters, these unplanned events that come along. So, like I said, the ones I mentioned, like losing someone, losing a home, losing a job, we're going to be speaking more about that in other sessions this month. But I just wanted you to know the difference of how expansion can occur. It can be deliberate, or it can be forced, thrust upon us. And I know by now you know that the ones that are thrust upon us are usually the ones that we are most challenged with. Yes, we can be challenged by the ones that we choose, or in ones where we choose to expand, but there's a different experience with it. But those that are thrust upon us or forced upon us, those are where the gold is really waiting to emerge, if you didn't know. Now, if you just look at the last 2 years, over the last 2 years, what had happened, right? I mean, it was thrust upon us to be in lockdown. We had no choice in the matter. It was challenging I don't know of anybody who wasn't challenged by it, whether it was emotionally, mentally, physically, financially. It was one or all or a few of it, because that's just it. We were actually being asked to reconnect to our spirituality. And if you looked at what was happening in the world, it felt like we were all lost. There was just so much of chaos, mayhem. There was a disregard for human life. There was a disregard for Mother Earth. We were functioning like robots. I'm sure you realize that. People were just working, 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 working. People were just like burnt out. People were just like on overdrive. Now, Many people did not understand that that was an opportunity for us to expand, for us to grow, to us to move to our next level of consciousness. Because this is what expansion is really about. It's about raising our consciousness. It's what some term as our ascension. Because you see, we have to, like when we are in school and we go through each grade. Why do we do that? Because that's how we get to move from being a child to, a baby, a toddler, then into teen, then to adulthood. If you just look at the school, it's like to move through the different stages of learning, of growth, of evolution. And if you've noticed over the years, spiritual expansion seem to have died down. It's just a handful of people across the world. It was just a small percentage of people. And why am I saying this? Because if you noticed, if there was more fear than love, if there was more disconnection than connection, if there was more war than peace, then we were not expanding, right? And this is what expansion is about. It's about our reconnection to Source, God, Spirit, the universe, infinite wisdom, whatever term resonates with you. And expansion, when, as I said, when people generally think about it, it's always been about material things. How much more do I have in the bank? What new job do I have? How much bigger is my home? And we've forgotten about the other aspect of expansion. Now, a great example of understanding the physical and the spiritual aspects of expansion is when one looks at yoga. You see, in yoga, the practice of yoga, and I'm talking about the exercise practice of yoga, because yoga is much more than exercise. So when you're breathing, you are expanding your lungs so that the life force energy flows through you. Now, the person practicing yoga poses, well, they expand physically, mentally, and spiritually. So notice, in the one sense, you're breathing, so you're actually doing the expansion on this level where your lungs are working and expanding. And then by doing these poses, we are expanding on the levels. Yes, your body will become stronger, the mental, which you can't see, and the spiritual, which you can't see. But there are signs outside of us when you become aware of what they would be. And I'll share that with you in a short while as well. Right? And that's just it. We have to understand that expansion exists on both levels. Expansion is there for our abundance. Without expansion, well, then there is no abundance, right? Whatever abundance is for you. And remember, I'm going to remind you, take abundance out of, or take the common belief out there about what abundance is, about having lots and lots and lots of money and lots and lots and lots of material possessions. I want you to start reconnecting with the essence of abundance and what it really means. So, like I've shared, some of the physical examples of expansion is having a bigger home, right? Maybe at one stage you were a single person and you only required a studio or one bedroom place. Then you get married or have a partner, or you expand your family, you bring people to live with you, then you require more space. It's the same with the car. At one stage, maybe a two-seater was working well for you. Then you may expand your family or your interests, and then you go get a bigger vehicle. And yes, very often people would say, oh, I had to trade in my sports car for a family-sized car, right? Yes, that's expansion as well. Or we have increased economic or business activity. And as I said, you can have a promotion, a career, new career. It all depends on what it is in the physical realm that we're seeking. Now, some spiritual examples of expansion is where we serve more people, connecting to our spiritual gifts, having a closer, stronger connection with that which we term as God, the universe, spirit, infinite wisdom, feeling safe, feeling connected, feeling supported, feeling purposeful. Those are also examples of spiritual connection. And you're going to love this one about spiritual connection, expansion. What this means is about being happy, being content, being satisfied, knowing that you have enough already. That's a sign of spiritual expansion, right? You notice that there's a softness to it, there's a gentleness to it, there's a deep connection to it. Now, when we think about expansion, we have to look at the opposite that exists in the world around, and even in our own lives at different times, even in my life, right? We have to look at contraction when we think about expansion. Now, just think about this. When I'm contracted, well, it feels like nothing's working, right? It feels like I can't make headway. It feels like I'm not getting the solutions. I feel disconnected. It feels as if I'm trying to make things or force things to happen. Now, when we are in an expanded state, we feel empowered. We feel enough. We are creative. The opportunities just seem to come our way. I mean, just this past week, when I was away at the hydro, I didn't go looking for anything, but things came my way. I didn't expect anything, but things came my way. And what was I doing? I was in nature. I was resting. I was allowing myself to receive support, beautiful, nourishing meals, consuming beautiful, nourishing meals, being in the water, having massages and different therapies to help my body be in alignment with my abundance. And this is what happens when we are in an expansive state. We don't have to go looking for anything, because what happens is that our aura just goes out there. And yes, for those of you who believe that your aura must be small, no, how is anybody going to find us if our aura isn't expansive? And yes, we're going to be speaking more about that at some point as well, right? But expansion is about things just falling into place, because that's how it feels. There's a lightness to it. Resources just show up. And really, I think the power of expansion is knowing that you are enough, right? That for me is such a clear distinction between contraction and expansion. So just think about it. Even if you have like a deflated tire, right? Can you go anywhere? Can you do anything? No. It's quite a challenge when that tire is deflated. And then when you pump it up, when you expand that tire, then you can drive the vehicle. Then the vehicle goes and, you direct it to wherever you want it to go. And for me, that's quite an apt description of how expansion works. It's like a guiding force. Each time you allow yourself to expand, because that's an important one. Do we allow ourselves to expand, right? Because then we are able bodies to do, be, have, create, experience whatever it is that our soul guides us to do, be, have, create, and experience. Now, yes, there are advantages and disadvantages to expansion. And why do you think many people are afraid to expand? You see, to expand, generally, it takes you out of a comfort zone. And many people don't like that. Many people don't like being uncomfortable. Many years I read a book that dealt with the art of asking. And basically, there was a little part in there that people are comfortable being uncomfortable. So the disadvantage of expansion is that you're going to get uncomfortable. But here's the thing, nothing happens until you become uncomfortable. So whether you're the butterfly that has to emerge through and transform from this caterpillar into this beautiful butterfly and go through the pain of those, the changes that occur when it's in that cocoon, it's the same with expansion. So I say it's a disadvantage because people don't like being uncomfortable, right? And yes, with expansion becomes more responsibility because just think about it. If, for example, you get a promotion, right? That's expansion. Now, with a promotion, generally, there's more responsibility in terms of people, there's more money, there's more maybe duties involved. So, what happens? It's like we start doubting whether we can do that. So, we feel uncomfortable. And yes, with expansion, that can be seen as a disadvantage. Now, when you think about advantages, what happens when you expand? I shared about that a few minutes ago. You align to your abundance. It's plain and simple. What is the abundance you are desiring? What is the great health you want to experience? What is the relationship you want to experience? What is the inflow of money you want to experience? Who do you want to serve? What impact do you want to have in the world? Maybe you want to write a book, right? Because it's happening in that space of expansion. It cannot happen when we are seated all crumpled up and feeling all tight and controlled by the circumstances around us. All right. So if we look at and understand that expansion is necessary, we can't avoid it, even if we tried to do that. And in the next session, I'm going to be talking about the symptoms, the signs of expansion, because maybe you did not realize that you were going through a process or the phase of expansion. Because, like I shared, we sometimes misunderstand something for being a negative and then think that it's something bad instead of looking at it and looking for the benefits in what's happening for us. So, I'd love to know what you thought about my chat with you today. What was your view of expansion versus what it is that I shared with you? And what is it that you're going to be doing differently? And how are you going to be interacting with the concept of expansion? Like, are you ready for it? Are you ready to welcome it? Are you ready to embrace it? Are you ready to tap into the frequencies of expansion so that you can align to your abundance? Now, please leave me a comment whether you watch it on the replay today or any day over the week. And I see that there are comments in here. Yes, the view of expansion, the art of asking. Yes, there's that was the book I mentioned. So I'd love to hear from you. And like I said, when we talk about abundance, It's time for us to connect with the frequencies of abundance. And that is why each month I bring you a different frequency and we explore that frequency in depth. Because the way of the world that you knew it to be has changed, has evolved, it's expanded. And until you choose to step into the more expanded world by expanding yourself, well, it's going to feel like it's a challenge when in truth, it's just a different vibration that you're going into. So until next time, ciao for now.